Hi my ladies, happy August. A few weeks ago, I reshared an earlier episode of Mind Your Business and the title was 10 books which helped me escape the broke mindset. Afterwards, one of the ladies in our network sent me this message. Hello Amma, I did watch this video and I must say I am inspired. However, you didn't mention some of the practical steps you took to move from being broke to having abundance. Perhaps you should do a follow-up video on it with a smiley face. And yes, so today's episode of Mind Your Business is going to be a response to what this lovely lady shared. It gave me an idea. I am happy to share with you 5 practical lessons from the books on money. Are you ready? Get your glass of water or a cuppa and stay tuned.
Fab Hub Ashanti, a haven nestled at the tip of Kumasi, where fresh air meets serenity. Fab Hub Ashanti is a residential learning and event space perfect for your corporate training, staff retreat, group hangouts, and wedding receptions. With 4 rooms and 15 beds, you and your group can sleep comfortably. What makes us special? Fab Hub Ashanti is not just a space, it's a commitment. By choosing us, you support community projects empowering women and youth. Join us at Fab Hub Ashanti off Aful Junction, Abuabukesi, Kumasi. Fab Hub Ashanti, here we grow.
Hi, I am Amma Duncan, founder of the Fabulous Woman Network. Before 2015, I was that broke girl who was stuck in her own limiting belief of not enoughness. Marianne Williamson's words, "You are a child of God," woke me up. And then I sought help to work on myself. I still invest heavily in my personal development and so much has changed for me in the most incredible ways. My burning desire is to see an Africa in which women are empowered to thrive and impact people. I am a trainer, coach, author, social entrepreneur, and an event organizer who is passionate about helping others on their own personal development journey so that together we can all thrive as fabulous children of God. Mind Your Business is our weekly podcast which is free on YouTube. Here we share enriching content to help us all thrive as fabulous children of God. And if you prefer to work with me one-on-one, please go to my website amaduncan.com/store to book a discovery call with me. Welcome back to today's episode of Mind Your Business on 5 practical lessons from books on money. So if you watched the earlier episode that I mentioned, then you see that I talked about 10 of the books. To be honest, like I said in that video, I have read a lot of books on money, wealth creation, ever since that incident when my daughter read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and gave me an awakening. Yes, it was an aha moment. I don't want to go all the way back into that story, but basically that was the beginning of everything. And this was at this time maybe almost 10 years ago. This is when it happened. And I must also say this is August, my birth month, and I am going to be 41 at the end of this month. And usually in my month of birth, especially on my birthday, I do a lot of reflection, and I woke up this morning with a new energy, a new resolve as I was reflecting on some of the experiences I've had. So I think that it's actually perfect that I'm going to be talking about money, which was one of the issues that in the past really, what's the word to say? Like, it was really something. I have had a relationship with money. I don't know about you. So I feel so grateful that I am in this new state or moving towards this new state, which is way better than being constantly broke. Before I go into this episode, there's a gentleman I follow on Facebook called Big Godwin. And today I read his post about how he gave someone, his mentee, a book on money, and the mentee ended up not reading it because he was broke or something. A lot of times when I am dealing with people who are in that mindset that I used to be in, this poverty mindset, I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I could make them read some of these things that I read that have helped me. But well, I don't think you can force people. I mean, all these books that I mentioned, they had always been there, but I never read them really. So I can't blame people for not reading. But if you are listening to this episode and books are not your thing, you just have an open mind. Please, I beg you, just have an open mind and listen to me, where I share 5 of the many tips and information about money that I've had over the almost 10 years since I started reading again, right? So from the story, you know that Rich Dad, Poor Dad was that book that gave me the awakening through my daughter Paris. And I actually had a copy. The original copy, someone took it. I bought another copy and I went and shared my story, and then someone else took it, which is fine. But I'm going to share the lesson, the very phrase that my daughter mentioned, and the lesson and how I utilized it. So the first practical step, and if you see me looking this way, I'm just looking on my notes. The first practical step is from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This is the statement my daughter made to me. Mommy, the book said, poor people work for money and rich people let their money work for them. This was the sentence that jolted me out of poverty mindset. Okay, so what did I do with this information? Now remember, there was a lot of other lessons. I'm just picking a few and then telling you practically what I did. This made me think of investments, that I realized that actually at that point in my life, I was living hand to mouth. Whatever amount I was getting, and maybe at this time I was earning 1,000 Ghana cedis, I think so, maybe, or between 700 and 1,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, I was a manager, but this was about 10 years, almost 10 years ago. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of money. Let's get over that. Yeah, come back to me. Okay, so yes, maybe I was earning this amount, and at the time I would pay tithe, not every time, but only when you know, when I felt like, okay, fine, God, you let me pay. I wasn't really consistent, but I would pay 100 for tithe, and then I would spend the rest of it on, you know, the usual house stuff, food and bills and all that. And that was it. And I was living hand to mouth like this. I didn't really have enough to, I mean, savings, what are you kidding me about? Like, in my mind, I didn't have enough to even save or invest or anything. But after this conversation, this awakening and reading the book, I realized that actually I needed to invest. So one of the things I spoke to a very good friend who was then in investment banking at one of the big banks in Ghana. And then he also recommended an investment banker for me to speak with. And I'm not going to mention the names of banks because things change, and I don't want to recommend personally. I mean, you can see me privately for a recommendation, but what I would rather say is just speak to an investment banker or someone you trust. So they recommended these different investments that I had to start. And in the next point, I'll share how I did that. But basically, the conversation about investments got me thinking, I need money that works for me, because all along really I was working for money, so I would get the money and then I would spend it. But I needed something that made money work for me even when I wasn't working, right? So yes, I did that investment through this, and I started small. Like I said, I'll tell you in the other points what I did practically. But what this investment also got me thinking about was passive income. That is income that you are not actively making yourself. Like when I go and speak somewhere and I get paid, that is something I'm actively doing. But with passive income, whatever it is that is making the money for you, is doing its work. So that's literally money working for you, and then you also being somewhere. So one of the things that I did practically also, eventually I did write books. My books are on Amazon. Even today someone asked me for the link. When I actively advertise, yes, I get the sales. But even when I don't, depending on, maybe someone watched my video how many years ago and then they decide to go and buy, that is passive income. Now, the books, I wouldn't say as a passive income source makes me a lot of money, but I just use it as an example. Another thing that makes us passive income is Fab Hub Ashanti. As you may know, we rent the space for weddings, retreats, and training programs, conferences, and hangouts, and all these incomes that I'm not physically involved in, because I hardly even go there. I go there only when there's an event, or yesterday, for instance, I went because we had a team meeting, but otherwise I would hardly step there. We've put a system in place so that it can run without us. I wouldn't say it's 100% passive for me, but for me, it's one of the other things that we've started doing that eventually may be really, really 100% passive. This is what we are hoping to do. And so the point also about passive income is it takes time. Like, it took us a long while to get to where we are, where, for instance, we don't have to go to Fab Hub every day. When we opened it in the beginning, I had to show up almost every single day myself, and then we had one assistant. But now we have the team is growing. It's a, what does Amy Porterfield say, a strong but mighty team. We have a lovely operational team that is working and making things happen. So that is an idea of a passive income. I have a few other examples, but I hope this helps. And then I think that beyond the concept of passive income, what this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this particular statement made me think of was multiple streams of income. When I used to be in corporate, I had this, I don't know what it is, maybe loyalty to my employer, to the extent that I remember getting opportunities to train other organizations and all, and saying, oh no, because of conflict of interest, I couldn't do it. But actually, the conflict of interest clause in my contract specifically told me things that I couldn't do in terms of training or in terms of the HR that I was providing. And if I needed to do that, I had to come clean. I had to let my employers know that this is what I'm going to do, and then get the approval. So it wasn't a matter of that clause, but it was just me and my thinking, or perhaps laziness, that got me to say no to all these opportunities. And of course, apart from the laziness, there was also the complex, my thinking that I was really not good enough to offer anything to anyone else. One of the things I encourage our team to do is always to have multiple streams of income, at least 4, at least 4. But anyway, if you have only one, a step will be to have 2, and then 3, and then 4, and as many as possible. And perhaps another time we can do a call on that Mind Your Business episode, because my point is not to overwhelm you, but just to draw your attention to the point that there are multiple streams of income, right? So that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The second book, which I thought I had on my shelf, I was ready to just pull it out today for this video, only to realize maybe the original owner has come for it, or I've probably gifted it to someone. Yeah, I can't, it's not here, it's not downstairs, or it's probably at Fab Hub Ashanti. But anyway, that book is The Richest Man in Babylon. Oh my goodness. Something I learned from this was the fact that 10% of my income is mine. So you know how I gave the example of I was earning 10,000, I wish, 1,000 cedis at that time, and that 10% I would use to pay tithes, not every time, but sometimes. Another 10% started becoming mine. Like, I started owning that 10%, and I'll tell you the principle. I'm going to read. So the story of Richest Man in Babylon, there was this guy, and I think his mentor, it's been so long, but the mentor was called Arkad or something. So he advises on saving 10% of your income to start building your wealth, or your purse, as they call it in the book. So a quote from the book says, "For every 10 coins thou places within thy purse, Take out for use but 9. Take out for use but 9. Thy purse will start to fatten at once, and its increasing weight will feel good in thy hand and bring satisfaction to thy soul. This literally worked for me. So what I was doing was that even though I thought the money I was earning was very little and not enough to even sustain me. No, okay, it wasn't that I thought. It literally couldn't help. Like, it wasn't enough because I wasn't managing it, or I wasn't cutting my coat according to my size at that time. But after reading this book, I decided to put 10% aside anyway. It may have been very hard in the beginning. I can't remember now, but this is what I did. There was through that investment banker person I spoke to, there was a particular bank. It's an investment bank. I'm not going to mention the name. It's still in Ghana. I could connect my bank account to theirs, or I could pay by Momo every month. They had this thing, they still have it, this thing where you can easily send money from your account via Momo to them, and then they invest it for you. Like, it's an investment, so they kept investing. And I used to put in sometimes as little as 10 cedis, sometimes 30, sometimes 100. 100 was, of course, from well, at that time, it was really my only source of income. But if anything happened and perchance I got any money, I would keep 10%. And it was really that little. Sometimes it was really 10 cedis that I would send into that account. But little by little by little, it was, at the end of the day, I remember the plan I had for that money was, I think I was going to start Uber business or something with it. But in the end, I didn't end up doing that. It was part of the seed money for Fab Hub Ashanti. It was part of the seed money, or even their seed money at the time. And then eventually we got a few grants and gifts here and there. That money, little by little. Now, if you've listened to the beginning, the other story I shared, this was someone who had nothing, and in my mind, I had nothing. So fiscally too, I thought I had nothing. But when I started saving little by little by little, let me give another example of this. I remember around the same time as well, or maybe a little before then, before this book, when I gave birth to my kids, one of the things that I really wanted to do for them was to invest money for them little by little. And I remember I started by investing 10 cedis a month for them, and it was my own bank account. So every month, when my money hits, is it called standing order or direct debit? I forget. They would take 10 cedis, just 10 cedis, and put it in my kids' account. I did it for my first child, my daughter, and then also for my son. I had been doing it, and I remember saying that I wanted to increase it to 30 cedis, or even maybe when my friend found out it was only 10 cedis, she was like, but Amma, where do you saw? I said, Amma, 10 cedis is nothing. It's true, it wasn't a lot of money, but for me, it was money. At the time, I needed every money possible. And I put it little by little. Do you know that as of now, I've still been doing that. Now I've increased it a bit, and the money is still working. The interest, the compound interest, it just keeps. The last time I remember going to check, and I'm like, how did you guys make so much money? It's just sitting in their accounts. So whenever we are ready to give it to them. So all these tiny, tiny seeds that sometimes we think is not enough, it's actually something. I've seen people do the whole susu thing. I don't do susu. I've taught my kids to have piggy banks. I don't do that. What I used to do was sending the money direct debit. So my account still does that. The bank, the other investment bank, they had issues, and so things went down a bit. But I've seen that they are back up, and I'm going to go back into doing that. But that little savings really went a long way for me. So please, keeping 10% of your, at least 10%. There was another book I was reading that talked about the fact that actually you can keep more for you. And I was like, yeah, I would like that, Lord. Okay, so that's book number 2, Richest Man in Babylon. Then the next book, I've read it a few times, and I'm actually currently reading it again. It's the current book by my bedside. I just took it and brought it up because of this video. It's this book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I loved reading this book. Yeah, I say that about all books, don't I? But this book, there was something about this book. In fact, all the books that I read talk about changing your mindset about money. It talks about the what's the word? Genesis of it, or like how your mindset is formed. The word is not coming, subconscious mind and all these things that I'm not even going to go into right now. But what this book made me do was to change my money blueprint, or it began helping me to change my money blueprint. This is a perception that you've had about money for years, like since you were a child, even perhaps before the age of 7. By age 7, I'm told that your subconscious mind is formed already, and whatever you do to it, it is just like that. Bench like that, it's not ready to move. But this book made me conscious of how I think about money. Let me give an example of how I used to think about money. So I remember some time ago, maybe 8 or so years ago, I was at my kids' school. I was at the car park about to pick them, or I had dropped them, and I saw 50 Ghana cedis on the floor. 50 Ghana cedis even now can do something, can buy you quite a nice lunch. I saw it and I didn't pick it. I called security and told them that there is money on the floor, and they were the ones who picked it. I don't know what they did with it. Ask me, why didn't I pick that money? I am a Ghanaian. I grew up hearing stories about how people pick money from the floor and turn into yam. Like money that's not yours. If you just see it on the street and pick it, you turn into yam or something, like you are used for sacrifice and all that. All those things were right here, and they made me not pick money from the floor. But after reading this book and realizing that actually I needed to be a money magnet, I changed. Now when I see money on the floor, I thank God. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for this money. I receive, like and sometimes it's like 10 pesos. Sometimes it's maybe 20 pesos, a bunch of it. I've seen a few, like I used to go for walks in the morning with my husband, who see money, I would pick it. Now I pick it. And then every time before I pick it, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for this money. And the book even goes on to say I am a money magnet, you know. And then there was something I read in another book that even talks about how you should react. Give God the impression that you are happy to see money. You are happy that it has come to you. It could have gone to someone else, but it chose you. Hey, me. Okay, so now I remember in a training when I talked about this recently, one trainee asked me, so Amma, what about sacrifice money? Will you take it? Sacrifice money. So sometimes, and I have seen it before actually. A few years ago, my husband and I were going for a walk. I saw it. I don't know if he saw it. In front of someone's house, there was a white handkerchief with some things on it, and then they had put money on it, and it looked like either sacrifice or something sort of spiritual. Of course, I went right past it. And, you know, like, hey, what if it's someone's juju, like black magic or whatever it's called? So I passed by it. But the person asked me, so what if I see something like that now? Will I pick it? I really thought deeply about it. Will I not pick it because I'm afraid? Or why else? Why wouldn't I pick it? Then it just occurred to me. That is someone's prayer or something. You know, for them, it's like, for me as a Christian, putting money in the offertory basket. It's for a reason. It's for a purpose, a spiritual purpose. So that I won't pick it. Yeah, because it's disrespectful to whoever put it there. They know why they put it there. So that is not money I would pick. But if there is money generally like misplaced on the floor and there's no owner around to claim it, unless where you are, say it's at a place where really it's for someone really, like you have to return it. But if it's money that is, you know, like money found on the floor. Interestingly, when I used to work in the UK, my very, very first job in the UK, I cleaned, it was a movie theater. For the first time ever, I saw money. It was £20 or £5, I've forgotten. just loosely on the floor after people had finished watching the movie and I was cleaning. I took it. If it had been Ghana, maybe I'd have been thinking twice about it. But in UK, I took it. Can you imagine? So anyway, the whole point about this is that we should change our blueprint about money. That thought, that perception that if I have money, something bad will happen to me or something, all these things, it needs to change. And that is what this book is, one of the things this book did for me. We should let God know that we are happy when we receive money. That is one thing. Then another thing, you can see I'm smiling. I'm actually currently using this book as a devotional. This book, we read it maybe 3-4 years ago, called The Spirit-Driven Success by this very lovely lady. What's her name? Danny Johnson. I read it way back and I'm reading it ago. It was gifted to me by an old friend. And I'm really happy I'm reading it again because now I'm using it as a devotional because she's also a Christian, so she writes it from a Christian perspective. I'm reading it in a more detailed way than I used to read before. I'm using the Bible to, refer to things like that, and I'm really grateful for that. What did I learn from this that also stuck with me until now? Give into the right soil. Give into the right soil. So, as Christians, we are taught to give. I know some other religions, also Muslims and perhaps other religions, also encourage giving. And for us, it's spiritual. I was raised a Methodist and I was taught to tithe and all that. And we do. And then some people believe there's a difference between tithing and giving and all. That's fine. That's not the debate here. But my point is the giving. I used to think that giving is just, give. But then I remembered through reading this book and reflecting on it, I remember the story, the parable of the sower. Some people, some of the seeds, this parable that Jesus shares, some of the seeds fell onto rocks, some fell into thorns, some fell in different places, and then there was the fertile soil. It's from the fertile soil that the tree grows and then bears fruit, right? Which, by the way, fruit is what we can give, not the main tree itself. That is by the way. So this got me thinking, what is fertile soil? For me, fertile soil takes time to realize, right? Sometimes you have to really sow, like here, I have a garden at home, and sometimes there's a soil that you plant in and you know that this is not going well, especially for this type of plant and everything. So it takes time to know that this soil is fertile. This book talks about using the fruit. You can tell if a soil is fertile by its fruit. So wherever you are given, look at the fruit. What are they producing? What's coming out of that space? For me, my church is a fertile soil for me. And I know the sort of things that my church uses money for. They give, they support a lot of beautiful causes. And so I love giving at my church. There's another organization called Warrior Wives Prayer Ministry. I used to be an active member of it. Now I'm not actively involved, but I still support it 100% because that is another fertile soil for me. I can give multiple stories about how sowing into this ministry, I have seen the results from it, right? And that's why I would advocate for that. I mean, one time I posted on Facebook how I sowed there a certain amount in dollars, and then from there I started getting dollar contracts, I don't want to go into the full story, even though it's staring at me in the face because I mentioned I would say it, but maybe another time I will when I'm talking about giving. But basically, sowing in the land that I know produces good fruits works. Let me give an example of a soil that may not be fertile or is not fertile. You judge, listen and judge. Are you listening? So, it's funny. The candle looks like it is right by the books, but the books are all the way there, and then the candle is here. So if you are looking and thinking, Amma, you're going to burn your books, relax. They are two separate things. So, by the way, let me tell you the story. So, a lady I know, I'm very close with, told me the story of how someone else we know, a family person, came to her and asked her for money because his wife was on admission and they needed money for medication, surgery and all that. He asked for money and this lady said, I honestly don't have much. And the man insisted, oh dear, and yes, means that even the little you have, it will be enough. So this woman gives him it was only 50 cedis that she had, and she said this was money she had actually put aside to either send to her family or something, but she thought, you know, this man's wife is at the hospital and they need money, so let me give. She gives this money, and guess what happens? She goes out of the gate. I mean, after the man had left, she went out of the gate to do, you know, she was minding her own business. And she sees this man standing by a lotto kiosk. Now, you may say, oh, but you don't know which money he was using. But think about it. If he was so desperate for money for the wife that he came to ask, then why are you using, even if it was a dot of that money, why are you using it on lottery? Now, you judge for yourself. Is this soil a fertile soil? Especially if this is someone who keeps coming to you month after month, always asking, always needy, always, I need money for food. I need money to pay my school, my kids' schools, my kids' school fees. I need money constantly. Ask for yourself, oh, is this a fertile soil that you want to keep sowing into? I am not going to answer. Please, what I'm saying is that the book said, give into the right soil. And like for me, I have realized that actually it takes time to realize which land is fertile in terms of giving and which land is not fertile. Just today, I was going through, I actually have a give list. Now, at this point in my life, I am no more just given like that, you know, someone comes and tells you a sad story and then right away given. No, I have learned to wait, to ask questions, and then to know when to give and then when not to. Another thing I do is I have a list of people, of courses I give to support yearly. Like, you know, there are a number of courses that always I will support as much as I can, of course, including my church. I mentioned Warrior Wives too. Just this morning, I went through that list and then I realized that there were some soils that didn't need to be on that list. So I edited the list as I felt led to. So I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but it takes time to learn for yourself what is working and what is not working. Now, the final book, I didn't even mention it in the original episode that I did, but I need to mention it. See how dirty it is over years of reading it. This is my Bible. I had it covered because it was tarted. This is the Bible that I am using, just covered in African print. There's a lot of gems in this book when it comes to money. You know, one of the things that God talks about in the Bible, I know the plans I've got for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you. Like prosperity, God talks about it so many times. If it were wrong, I don't think, sometimes it's God who says it, sometimes it's the other writers who said it. But the point is, it's here. And I am a Christian and I believe in a lot of things that the Bible says. Right? So let me go to Deuteronomy, one of the books, the earlier books of the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 8:18. I'm going to read from the King James Version. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, his covenants which he swore unto thy fathers as it is this day. Okay, this is a lot of King James Version, but basically what it's saying is God gives us wisdom to make money. In some other versions, I think even my NIV, this is what it says. God gives us wisdom to make money. And boy, is this true. This is so true. God really does give us wisdom. I remember the first time I made good money. It was from my first book when we did the launch. That was the first time I realized, gosh, it is possible to make money. And it was God who gave that wisdom through one of my mentors to make that money. So indeed, God does give us wisdom to make money. So to wrap everything up, what I will say is, go to God. If you believe in God like I do, go to God. If you don't believe in God, whatever it is you believe in, well, I would like to introduce God to you. Like, God is my anchor in everything that I do. He anchors me. Like, I go to him, I ask him questions, and that is where I get help. And let me sound like a local advert. Mamin kamfo nyamimao. Let me, how do you say kamfo? Let me tell you about God, because when it comes to money and all these other issues we have, if we have him, it really makes things easier. It's not as if you won't have problems because you have God, but the fact that you are anchored in him makes life easier, makes life more fulfilling, more purposeful, right? And so please, let's ask God for wisdom to make money. If you're a Christian like me, then I encourage you to ask him. We all have access to God. We all do. You don't even have to speak out words to speak to God. Well, my belief is that I can speak to him right here, and he listens and he responds. And I know he can do that for you too. It's unacceptable, unimaginable that this entire universe was created by God with so much wealth in it, so many things in it, and you as a child of God cannot have access. It pains me when I see a child of God begging for money. And you know, when I used to be always broke, living in this poverty mindset, I thought it was people were being mean to me. They had and they were not giving it to me. So now I look at people who may not have, and I wonder, do they think other people owe them money? No, unless you've worked for them and they owe you, like some people owe me. But if that's not the case, then nobody really owes you money. But the wisdom to make money, it is there. Ask God for it. Seek mentorship. I sought a lot of mentorship, and I read a lot of books, not only on money, on leadership and everything. I'm reading. I'm speaking to people. I'm curious. My curiosity. Maybe one day I'll do a Mind Your Business episode on curiosity. Curiosity has taken me places. So ask questions, read, find out. Now we live in the age where information is, what's that big word? Ubiquitous. It is all over the place. Now I think our challenge is even sifting that information. So please, there is no excuse in this day and age as a child of God to be broke and to be crying and to be thinking that someone is mean because they didn't give you money. No, you have the right to make money. Abundance is your birthright. There are a lot of other gems in these books and all these other books about money. Please read at least one. Don't overwhelm yourself and buy as many books. Just one. Start with one and read. And these days, a number of the things I'm doing is rereading the old books. Instead of even getting new books, I'm rereading, because sometimes I forget important gems and I want to go back and get it. So to wrap it all up, I've shared 5 tips. 5, not 5. 5 tips. 1, let your money work for you. 2, save 10% of your income to start building your wealth. 3, change your money blueprint here. 4, give into the right soil. And 5, ask God for wisdom to make money. Now, before I go, let me just make a quick announcement to all our fabulous women. So you remember Fab CEO Mastermind? We started this in 2023, where we took a group of women who are new women in business to help them start and grow their businesses. So it was a coaching and mentoring program for 12 months, where twice they met at Fab Hub Ashanti in October and then in March. and it was a coaching program. So I would work with them, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes in group, and we had sometimes in groups, and sometimes we had trainings and all that to help us really work on our businesses. And it's a mastermind because it's not just my mind, but everybody's mind comes to play in this community. And I'm happy to announce that the second one is happening from September. I'm going to be sharing the link in this month of August so that those who are interested will sign up. It's a paid program. If you feel that this is something you need and you are willing and happy to invest in it, I want to encourage you to sign up once it comes. We are now putting together the cost to know how much it will cost. And of course, one of the things is that you have to be really committed to doing the work. I don't want the case where you pay but you are not able to come, not because of unforeseen reasons, but you are just looking at your schedule and you know in your heart of hearts you can't be on another program. No, this is not for you. This is for you if you feel this is something you can invest both your time and money inside. Yeah? So look out for link in the caption, as soon as it's ready, we'll send the links out. So this brings me to the end of today's episode of Mind Your Business. I hope you're enjoying the best of this new month, August. Toodles, bye.
Mind Your Business is one of our free resources available on YouTube. And if you prefer to work with me one-on-one as your coach, as a consultant, or as a trainer, it starts with a discovery call. Head to amadankan.com/store to book a discovery call with me.